If you're a regular viewer of my channel, then you've definitely noticed that over the past year, I really haven't posted on here at all. And when I have posted, I haven't been talking about hormone balance nearly as much. And that's been very intentional because I am going to be talking about hormones significantly less and really focusing more on just what it takes to live well and be well in our bodies. And what I want to do with this video is to just give you some context for why I'm making this shift, and then give you some quick insights into what I will be talking about more specifically. So for context, when I started this channel, it was in 2018, and at the time I just really wanted to provide education and show women that they have different options when it comes to supporting their hormones and overall health. Now, in that time, a lot has changed. The world has changed. The health and wellness landscape has changed. My own personal understanding of what it means to be healthy has also changed. So it is time to evolve the content because everything's moving along, and it doesn't make sense for this channel to basically be stagnant. So how I came to this decision was, I would say, through a series of things. I think one of the biggest things for me was just one day realizing that whether you're a man or a woman, no matter what you're trying to improve, whether it's your hormones, your prostate, your arthritis, gout, really doesn't matter what it is, we're all having to pull from the same set of foods, right? We're all having to look towards fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, like just whole foods, no matter what you've been diagnosed with. And so what that tells me then is that the label from a medical perspective that you have starts to become less important. It has its place for sure, but if we're just talking about, from a food perspective, from a holistic perspective, everybody has to eat healthy, and healthy food is always going to involve a certain group of foods. Now, if we're talking about, let's say, specifics, if you live in the US, the fruits that are available to you might be different from the fruits that are available to somebody in Kenya, for example, right? And same would go for vegetables and other things. So while the specific fruits and vegetables might change, but the category of foods are the same no matter where you are. We all have to go to those things to find the health and well-being. So pulling back, what I started realizing is that we can actually make all of these conversations much simpler and not make it just about foods for hormones. We can just make it about foods for a healthy, happy body. And then there is going to be a process of experimenting for your own self to see either what you like, what your body responds to well, and what's available to you. That's a necessary step. And so that you're not making decisions on your health and certainly on your grocery shopping just from a very kind of a prescriptive perspective, but you are actively involved and you're actively listening to your body. And we're starting the conversation that way. So that simplifies things, right? Because now it's just, let's just find the best foods to keep the body functioning as optimally as possible. The other thing too that made me want to make this shift is also realizing that, in some ways, while we're having more discussions about hormones, a lot of those discussions can also be very, very heavily product focused, right? Like in some circles, it just seems like there is just such a heavy focus on you must get this specific probiotic and you must get this specific, mineral supplement, whatever it would be. And there is some validity in the sense that, yes, especially if you're in the US, the soil here is depleted. There are certain nutrients we don't have, but that's not the only thing, right? Our habits still matter significantly, I would say significantly more than products, right? So we want to use the products, we want to have those habits as our foundation, and then those products, sort of on top to help, but we still need a good foundation. And the human body at the end of the day was made to thrive on real food. It wasn't made to thrive just on capsules, even if those capsules are coming from some whole food source that has been organically grown and fermented and all this, like, but the human body was just not meant to only exist on capsules, period. So we need to just focus on the foundation. The other thing too that I realized is that, again, everything that we're trying to do is we're just trying to support the body so that it can recalibrate itself, because it knows how to do that, right? So going back to what I said at the beginning, whether you have hormone challenges or you have challenges with arthritis, right? Whether you're male or female, at no point in time do you have to go inside your body and give it instructions on what to do. You never have to do that. It knows what to do once you put all of the right ingredients in place, right? So, 10 people you can have 10 people with 10 different diagnoses. They can all eat blueberries. They could all eat broccoli and benefit from it, right? Because at the end of the day, blueberries and broccoli have the building blocks that a human being needs to thrive. That is why you can have different people respond to it positively, even though on paper, their diagnosis is something different. So here, where we've been talking mostly about hormones, the same principles still apply, where it's like, it's important to know, chemically what's going on, and to say, okay, I have got challenges with estrogen, or I have challenges with insulin, and I've been told I have PCOS. Those are important. They have their place. But Mother Nature doesn't know PCOS, right? It doesn't know. These are things that we came up with. And the other thing I want to add to that is that these labels that we come up with often come with a heavy burden, like really, really heavy burden that can add to the symptoms that are already there, right? Because we have these perceptions in place, and when we're giving a specific diagnosis, we already have a story, often a very bleak story, that is associated with that diagnosis. And I also want to make sure that we are putting some space between us and the diagnosis, like really allowing some breathing room so that we don't get so attached to it. And then it takes on a whole other life of its own, because again, a lot of these diagnoses have some can have very bleak I would say predictions, right, associated with them. So for all of those different reasons, it just made sense to me that it's time to evolve. I will also add to that really quickly that at a personal level, I've seen people in my own self, friends, family have had different challenges. I had a friend who had a gallbladder issue. And at the same time, she had a shoulder that I think her right shoulder, she just could not lift over above her head. Like she couldn't lift her arm, I should say, above her head. And funny enough, she decides to start eating healthier for her gallbladder. She ended up avoiding surgery for that gallbladder. And at the same time, the shoulder healed. And it seemed like they would be unrelated. And so I decided to do some investigation into this. And I was like, let me go look at the meridian, the gallbladder meridian. If not, now the gallbladder meridian, this is something that's coming from Chinese medicine, where they have these meridians that are channels through which energy flows, and these channels have very specific paths in the body. And I was like, let me see where the gallbladder meridian goes. Funny enough, it wraps around the shoulder, and so you can see how having a gallbladder issue could potentially lock your shoulder and create a whole bunch of discomfort. So that was another reminder of like everything's connected. Had she gone and seen somebody to help her with the shoulder, maybe they would have done something else that would not have helped. So, I started realizing again that we need to just keep these discussions as simple as possible. And, even though she doesn't live in the US, she lives in Germany, but she still had to just go get herself some celery, and I think she maybe got some apples. Like, she didn't have to go to another planet to find something. She just went to the grocery store and just bought some very specific foods and ate them for a while, and she was good. In my own family, there are people who struggle with prostate problems, and they've had to, at the end of the day, just eat healthier to support their own prostate. I've had challenges, sometimes with my sleep, and in the past, I had tried herbs. I realized that for me, it wasn't an herb issue, it wasn't a food issue, it was stress issues. So I had to get good at supporting my nervous system, at really connecting with my own body so that it would just calm down so that I can get the sleep and rest that I needed. So a lot of things have happened to get me to this space where it's like everything is just about healthy habits. There's never a situation where eating healthier would be bad for you. There's never a situation where supporting your nervous system will be bad for you. There's never a situation where getting more grounded in yourself will be bad for you. There's never a time where that would not be a good thing to do. So let's just prioritize those. And also lastly, I have this, because I have this interest in yoga. I've been trained as a yoga teacher. I've also spent a lot of time exploring different meditations. I've studied so much more about the energy body and different things. So I also want to bring all of that into the discussions that we have on this channel to hopefully help you with whatever it is. So at the end of the day, I'm still going to be focusing really on women's health. I'm just not going to be making it a very narrow discussion, because whether you've got fibroids or, whether you are struggling with weight, whether you've got challenges with maybe hormonal acne, whatever it may be, in all of that, there is just a need to support your body holistically. And then the body will take what you're doing and do what it knows to do in its own time, right? And we just allow the space for that to happen. So with that, I'm gonna segue to really talking about like what I want to focus on more, which is to talk about the ways in which we can nourish ourselves, because we actually need to be nourished in so many different ways to really feel good in our bodies, right? So, I want us to get to the space again where we're really focused on living well and being well, right? This channel is called Live Well Zone because really my intent was always I want us to live well, because that will help us be well. So we need to get nourished physically, which can involve food, can also involve things like exercise, right? We also need to be nourished, I would say, at the more emotional, energetic level. And that can be now looking into, the company that we keep, the content that we consume, right? How much time we spend in nature or not, how much time we spend just indoors or around electronics. What kind of information are we letting into our subconscious, right? So we also need to be nourished that way in the books that we read. So we need to be nourished in lots of different ways to really feel good and feel happy and have a fulfilling life. And health is about wholeness. And the moment we have a breakdown where we're either over nourishing ourselves one way and not enough the other way, that will create imbalance, because everything we experience is experienced in this body and will manifest and show through this body. That is just unavoidable. Everywhere you go, you take yourself with you, right? So every experience is, whether it's helpful or not, will somehow communicate, somehow the body will let us know. And that's really why I want to make this change, so that we can simplify and flatten the discussion around hormones in women's health. And also because, one more thing, because hormones, I think also again have really gotten a bad rap, in the sense that when we talk about hormone imbalance, the hormone imbalance, the levels that you see, let's say on the test, they're also just a reflection of what's going on, right? Because hormones must change based on how we live. They must. That's what they do. The body adapts, and it adapts because it needs to do that for us to survive, right? So it's an intelligent response. It's not a mistake. It's not the body punishing us in any way. And while, yes, the symptoms can be quite overwhelming and can completely disrupt our lives, but it's really important that we realize that whatever is going on with the hormones as far as how they look on the test, it's not a mistake. Things are supposed to shift. When there is a lot of stress, then yes, the cortisol is supposed to shift, and then there's going to be a cascade where potentially it affects progesterone, estrogen, and others. That is by design. That is how it's supposed to be. So I actually think that it's important to even take comfort in the fact that those symptoms show up. And what I mean is that those symptoms are still showing you that the body is functioning, right? That shift in hormones is still the body functioning. It's just not functioning, in a way that is optimal for us to live a happy and fulfilling life. But the body is functioning. It's not giving up on you. It's still fighting for you. So let's now sort out how we can go about creating a more whole and loving space for the body to do the recalibration that it needs, whether it's through food, whether it's through meditation, walking in nature, whatever it is that we're going to be talking about moving forward. So that's it for this video. What I would love is, if you've stuck around this far, I would love to hear from you as far as just what your perspective is, what your experience has been, also as another human who is looking at this landscape of health and wellness and the conversations that we're having around hormones and women's health. I'd love to get your perspective, and I'd also love to know if, based on what I've said, if there are any specific maybe questions or topics that you'd like for me to get into in upcoming videos. So please feel free to share below, and let's start this conversation and get things going. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.